All right. Well, what I want to do is ask a question. I want to ask the question, is there evidence for God? I'm gonna talk about some of that evidence today. I know I've given previous sermons about the cosmological arguments for the existence of God, but this one is a little bit different. It's a little interesting to me, and I like to share these things that I find with you all. And so let's begin. Genesis 1:1 through 3 says, "In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. The earth was formless and void, and darkness was over the surface of the deep, and the Spirit of God was moving over the surface of the waters. Then God said, 'Let there be light.' And there was light." You know, it's interesting to think that there was nothing and that our universe didn't even exist. It was empty, it was non-existent. And then, out of nothingness, the universe came into being. That all of a sudden, that it existed. The emptiness and the void was miraculously filled with matter. That we are here as a result of that. And that men who wrote scriptures thousands of years ago were inspired by God to write the creation, concerning the creation of all things. If you look at Jeremiah 10:12, it says, "It is he who made the earth by his power, who established the world by his wisdom, and by his understanding he has stretched out the heavens." Did you know that scientists today, they agree that the universe has an origin, it has a beginning. And they commonly refer to this beginning as a Big Bang. But the main reason why they believe in the origin or the beginning of the universe has to do with a measurable expansion of the universe. So scientists today can measure that the universe is expanding. And they can measure it with instruments. It's kind of amazing to me that they can do that, but it's true, they can. And so that there is a scientific consensus that out of nothingness came something. And you know, when I think about what atheists think about how this all came into being, or where this came into being, that they are grasping for a reason. And that they would have to accept that matter and energy and everything came from nothing, or that matter came from energy. But you know, there's something that we should consider. There's a problem with that. That matter and energy and all these things are chaotic. They don't have a purpose. You see this book, this is the Bible. It has a binding. It has a cover. It has pages. And all on these pages are written words. And all those words make an intelligible argument. And they tell us something. They're communicating a message. Did you know that the same thing is true about the universe? That it also has a point. That there are stars and gas nebulas and comets and the earth and everything in it is composed and governed by the laws of nature, that there is mathematical equations that can equate for everything that is in the earth, that it is all governed by laws of nature, that they have to abide by these laws, that they have to exist according to the laws of nature. So when you think about a book and you think about the universe, it seems to me that there would have to be a purpose behind it all. And if you're a fan of math, I'm not really, but there are some equations for you. There's some equations that you can think about. That the universe happening the first time like it did is 1 chance in 10 to the 55th power. Okay, so that's 10 with 55 zeros after it. Oh, got a little head there. And if you think about, there it is, 10 to the 55th power, 55 zeros. That's the chance that the universe would have happened by accident. And yet it happened on the first time and the first try. Do you know what that's equivalent to? Maybe something that will help us understanding it a little better. There is this statistician, his name's Peter Old, and he's a believer. Well, he figured it out that it's like rolling a dice 70 times and getting the same number all 70 times. So that's, if you think about that, you know, if I was to go into a casino and roll a dice and, you know, I get a 6 and then I get another 6 and then another 6 and another 6 and I keep doing that 70 times, you would not believe that it was possible that that was chance. And you know what the average chance of that happening is? That it would take you to roll the dice and get that chance 70 rolls in a row. It would take that many years. It would take that many. Okay, how many years is that? That's 100 trillion years for you to roll on average 70 sixes in a row. So when it comes to how much faith do you have to be an atheist? That's a lot of faith, man. that is a lot of faith. And, you know, Einstein, he saw the logic and the beauty of the universe, right? And he knew that everything was governed by these mathematical principles and these laws. And he knew that if it wasn't God that created the universe, that the universe would be chaos. There would be, it wouldn't make sense. It would be in disarray. And so he looked at the universe and all the perfection and the mathematics that govern it and said there has to be a God. There has to be a creator of the universe. And that's a cool observation. You know, it's interesting for me to learn about all these things and share them with you, and I hope that they help you with your faith. I hope that they encourage you, these things about our natural world. And I think that it's important to know, you know, that God is out there and He's looking down on us. You know, and as interesting as these details and these facts are, I think that it's equally compelling, or even more compelling, evidence for God's existence that exists in each one of us, that's in our heart, in our mind, in our soul. And this is how I got my slides out of order somehow. I must have clicked on something funny. But Acts 17:26 through 28. It says, "And he made from one man every nation of mankind to live on the face of the earth, having determined their appointed times and the boundaries of their habitation, that they would seek God, if perhaps they might grope for him and find him, though he's not far from each one of us. For in him we live and move and exist, as even some of your own poets have said, for we also are his children." You know, every one of us, as I was saying before, is born with this desire to find a higher meaning, to find a purpose. If you look at any other creature in the world, they don't care about that stuff. They don't take inward looks at, is there something greater than this? And you know, these people who wrote this 2,000 years ago were writing a truth that's the same today, that people are grasping. That we have this consciousness, this awareness that stretches beyond basic survival, beyond just the basic needs, food, shelter, warmth. Why is that there? Why? There's no reason for it to be there. There's no evolutionary advantage to that. Why is it there? And I think we have to come to selves and take an inward look and say, it's there because it was put there on purpose. Because God put it in each one of us to look for him. Back on track. Romans 1:19 through 20, it says, because that which is known about God is evident within them. For God made it evident to them. For since the creation of the world, his invisible attributes, his eternal power, his divine nature, have been clearly seen, being understood through what has been made, so that we are without excuse. You know, I was watching, I frequently watch video logs from atheists just to see what they think or what's on their mind or their different arguments for what they think. And I saw this guy that was an avowed atheist, and yet he was brave enough that occasionally he was worried that he would go to hell. And he stated that he would suppress the feeling even though it caused him some sleepless nights. He'd suppress the feeling with his atheist beliefs. And I think about this passage. I think about Acts 17, 26 and 28. I think about Romans 1:19 through 20, because that which is known about God is evident within them. It's trying to get out. It's screaming. It's saying, listen to me. And yet this person saying, no, I don't care if it's going to cause me sleepless nights. I'm not going to listen to you. It's sad. It really is sad. But why? What's the advantage in believing in nothing? What's the advantage? You have no hope. There's that when you die, that's the end of it. But you know, that can be a comforting thought if the alternative is that you believe that you could go to hell. If you think about it, you know, nothingness is preferable to that, I would think. But the main reason that we want there to be no God, or that people want there to be no God, is that sin is pleasurable. Sin has different payoffs and different benefits. They all have a currency. They all offer us something that we want. If you think about lying, for example, I'm going to just go through a few. There's a lot of sins, okay, and I'm not going to cover them all. But a few. If you think about lying, you know, in my previous line of work, I met a lot of people that lied. and you know what? I have lied in my life, and I'm sure every one of us has lied. You know, we might have been a white lie to spare someone's feelings or something, but it's still lying, right? It's because people are afraid of the consequences of their actions that they would tell the most obvious lies. So people, even though I had an investigation and I had all the facts and all the evidence, they would still lie about the fact that it happened because they just did not want to answer to the consequences of what that was. They didn't want to answer about the consequences of their other sin, which typically had to do something with greed. And, you know, we can be consumed with greed, consumed with want or desire for things. And no matter how much we have, it's never enough. You know, and that insatiable hunger for wanting things, for satisfaction of materialism and hoarding, that expresses itself in a lot of different ways. And one of those ways is also sensuality, right? God created man and woman for each other, to love and cherish for life. But people find pleasure in perverting the gift of God, right? They have multiple partners, they shack up, prostitution, lots of other sinful practices that people enjoy that provides them with pleasure. And pridefulness and hate, those also provide us with pleasure, things that we want or desire. Just think about it. People preserve their self-esteem with pridefulness and hate, right? If you think about putting other people down, like racism, classism, and any other ism that you can think of, all have their roots in pride and hatred. And people do it to make themselves feel superior or feel better than other people. And it all has to do with a self-esteem issue. You know, people enjoy their anger. They like to hold a grudge. They get satisfaction out of it. They communicate to all the people that they know how much they hate this person and how much they want to get even with them. You know, these are all things. These are all sins. They all provide a payoff. And if we have to admit that these, or why, what I should say is, why do people do this? Because of the pleasure, right? And they don't want to give it up. But what does it say in John 3:19? John 3:19 and 20. It says this. It says, "This is the judgment, that light has come into the world, and men loved the darkness rather than the light, for their deeds were evil. For everyone who does evil hates the light and does not come to the light for fear that his deeds will be exposed." Right? We enjoy sin. We get great pleasure from it. We don't want to give it up. We want to keep it. We want to do it. But if we admit that God is real, if we admit that he created the universe, if we admit to ourselves the truth that's around every one of us, as the Bible says, that it's within each of us, looking for God, if we admit all of his invisible attributes, his eternal power, his divine nature, if we admit all those things in the face of committing sin, if we admit in our heart of hearts that we are seeking for God, and we in our inner man are groping in the darkness and looking for the light, if we admit all those things, then we have to acknowledge that the sin is evil. We have to acknowledge that it's wrong. We have to admit that we are wrong. We have to accept that whatever sin we are indulging in is wrong. It is evil. And most difficult of all, that we are guilty and we don't deserve eternal life. You see, that's a hard thing for people to do in their mind. That's a hard thing for me to do every day. And it would be much easier to just say to myself, you know, God's not real, and I don't have to worry about any of that stuff. I don't have to accept any of that evidence. I don't have to look at, you know, all these statistics that make it unbelievably unlikely that there is no God, that I have to have 10 times the amount of faith to believe that there's no creator than I do to believe that there is one. Because for me, there's satisfaction in doing whatever I want, doing and not having any consequences for that. But as soon as I admit what God has put inside of me, what is all around me in the universe and in the creation of the world, as soon as I admit that, I know that I'm guilty and I can't do those things anymore. I have to admit that I have to change, that it's not okay anymore. And I'm in a bad place. And I'm in trouble. And you know, that would be really depressing if that's where the story ended, you know? That would be pretty sad. But that's not where the story ends, because God, he loves us. He loves his creation. He wants us to succeed. He wants us to be with him. He does not want us to fail. And so he did the only thing that could be done in the circumstances. Acts 2:37 through 42. These people of Israel, okay, they had just crucified Jesus Christ. And this is the point at which they figure out that they did. Before, they were denying it to themselves. Just like we deny the existence of God, they were denying that they did anything wrong. But here's Peter telling them exactly that what they did do was wrong, and them accepting and believing that. This is what it says. Acts 2:37 through 42. It says, "Therefore let all the house of Israel know for certain that God has made him both Lord and Christ, this Jesus whom you crucified." Now, he gave a lot of proof aside from that, and I encourage you to read all of chapter 2 to read, to get his entire sermon. But he told them that they crucified Jesus, the Christ. the anointed one, the chosen one of God, the Son of God. And it says, now when they heard this, they were pierced to the heart and said to Peter and the rest of the apostles, brethren, what shall we do? You can sense the defeat. You can sense the horror, the pain. What shall we do? We can't do anything. There's nothing we can do. And then Peter said to them, repent, and each of you be baptized in the name of Jesus Christ for the forgiveness of your sins, and you will receive the gift of the Holy Spirit. For the promise is for you and your children, and for all who are far off, as many as the Lord will call to himself. And with many other words he solemnly testified and kept on exhorting them, saying, be saved from this perverse generation. So then those who had received his word were baptized, and that day there were added about 3,000 souls. They were continually devoting themselves to the apostles' teaching and to fellowship, to the breaking of bread, and to prayer. So Peter told them what they needed to hear. He tells us what we need to hear as well. That this promise is not only for you, but for all who are far off. That Jesus died for you. That Jesus sacrificed himself for our guilt and our sin. That he did that for us. Because when we look at the face of it, we have to admit that God is real and that sin is wrong. The question today is, are you going to open your heart to God? Will you hear the truth? Will you accept the truth that is around you? Will you accept all the evidence that is there? Will you allow Jesus to save you, and will you believe in his name? Will you be brave and acknowledge your sin and repent? Will you allow God to wash away your sins and make you clean, a new creation in his kingdom through the waters of baptism? Will you commit your heart and your life to God and devote yourself to him? Will you change? And if you can say yes to these things, then God will forgive you. And you will enter his rest, his eternal kingdom. You'll have all these things. And if you want to know more, then let us know, and we'd be happy to study with you, happy to set up a schedule to study with you so you can learn more about the scriptures, so you can make an informed decision. And anything, if you have anything on your heart today, and you feel like you really need to share that, please feel free to do it as we stand and sing our closing song. Thank you.